Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing another installment of the weekly meta breakdown where we look at the top performing decks on the MTG Arena ladder. For this particular video, I'm going to do a combination of both historic best of 1 and best of 3, in part because there's quite a bit of overlap in terms of the decks themselves, which are in each format. So what we do is we look at Untapped GG, what you see on the screen, companion tool that runs alongside the Arena client, tracks win rates, loss rates, a whole bunch of cool in-game overlays. A bunch of functionality for you to use. Link is in the video description down below, but I will paste all these deck lists into the video description should you want to copy and paste these into Arena and hopefully try to get to Mythic. So we are going to be looking at historic best of 1, October 22nd to the 29th, Platinum to Mythic rank, 45,000 games played. And then we're also going to be looking at historic best of 3, same time frame, but 10,000 matches, so 20 to 30,000 games of Magic. Historic best of 3 has kind of fallen in terms of volume of games played. The best of 1 still is relatively high, not as high as standard, but you'll still get a good mix between Explorer as well as Explorer. So we're going to jump into it, and the top performing deck of the week for best of 1 is Azorius Affinity. So it's a 68% win rate deck, and honestly, like across the board, the artifact shell decks, you're going to see the next deck up as well, is a Boros version, but the artifact decks are kind of a tier up on a lot of the other decks in the format. There are ways to answer it, but they are very powerful. And they're kind of held together with cards like Esper Sentinel, which gets you a bunch of card draw. You have Retrofitter Foundry, which is a new enabler. 1 mana artifact where it's got a whole bunch of modes to it, but really what you're doing with this is the last mode. You're going to sacrifice a Thopter to create a 4/4, so you have ways to have Thopters in the form of like Ornithopter, but even as well you can just kind of tap untap late game and you get a whole bunch of value like that. Moonsnare Prototype can be used as bounce or ramp. You have Portable Hole in this version, so this is more of a mid-rangey fair version, I would say, of the deck. It's looking to take the game a little bit longer. You have ways to make things really big with Nettle Cyst, getting power from artifacts and enchantments. Ingenious Smith gets bigger once a turn when you cast an artifact. You get Trample and Lifelink with the Shadow Sphere. Thought Monitor helps you draw cards, and then you have a couple cards for card advantage, as well as creating constructs. So that's usually the term that's indicative of a 0/0 colorless construct artifact that gets power equal to the number of artifacts you control. In the mana base, you have like Spire of Industry, which is a dual land based on artifacts. You have some artifact lands in Razor Tide Bridge, as well as the Darksteel Citadel. So there's that best of 1 version. There's also the best of 3 version. So I'll just paste the best of 3 version. You'll see it's identical to the main board. And then you get your sideboard option. So I'll just paste this. So if you want to have the sideboard, you have the sideboard. If you don't want to have the sideboard, you don't need the sideboard. But what we're looking at is Graveyard Hate in the form of Soul Guide Lantern, as well as Unlicensed Hearse. Dovin's Veto for counter spells, as well as Mystical Dispute. More removal in Glass Casket, so you have 8 pieces of exile removal. Sai is a good way to make a lot of blockers in the deck, as well as Evasive, so even against stuff like Cat Oven, if you still run into that, you can go over the top. Another Karn for the grind advantage, and then Sky Sovereign is good catch-all removal in the particular deck. The next deck up is Boros Affinity, so similar concept in a way, but a little bit more of an aggressive slant. So this is a Luris companion version of the deck. So everything's 1 or 2 mana in terms of permanence. So in this version here, you're looking to kill your opponent a lot faster. So you still have your Esper Sentinel, Ornithopter, Retrofitter Thoptery, but you also have Barb Spike, which makes Thopters. You have Yotai Declares War, which makes Thopters. So more ways to get that kind of reduced cost 4/4. Mashiko could pump something really big, especially with a flyer or something with Trample. Ingenious Smith helps you find cards. You have 6 pieces of exiled main, and then Toolcraft Exemplar is a card that gets bigger if you control another artifact. Similarly, this particular list has got a 75% win rate in best of 3, which is kind of absurd, but same kind of concept. And then you have your sideboard plan. So you have Mana Tithe when you just need to kind of, against combo decks or stuff like that, they usually don't expect the counter spell, so you can kind of hit them. Enter the battlefield style effects. You have Hushbringer, more removal when you need to name certain permanents to shut off, like a Teferi or something like that. Card advantage and Graveyard Hate all kind of mixed in there. We then go to Izzet Wizards. So this is the deck that I've been doing the best with. So there's this version here. I'll also show you my version. I like my version better, but I'm going to be biased, obviously, because it's mine. But the core of the deck here, what you're trying to do is use spells like Symmetry Sage. When you cast spells, you can distribute power bonus of like +3, so base power and then power stacks on top. So Skull Scar, for example, would have base power of 3, and then any spell you cast goes on top of that in terms of a base power increase. You also have Balmor, which also gives you bonus to your attack. And really what's good is with Dreadhorde Arcanist, you can start casting back 2 and 3 mana spells. There's a lot of burn in this package, so Play with Fire, Static Discharge, Lightning Strike, and then Mentor's Guidance and Expressive Iteration. I actually prefer the Mentor's Guidance. You get 2 card draws out of it each time. You get to scry to find specific things. I'm also not on the Spikefield Hazard plan. I was playing an Otawara, and I'm on 20 lands in my particular build, similarly, but I just found that you're not really using that as a spell that much, and you don't want any lands, ideally, to come into play tapped on your first few turns. So if we look at my version, I was playing on mobile recently. Where are you, Wizards? I have played a lot of decks. Where are you, Wizards? There we go. 73% win rate. So very similar, but I got a couple strangles in the main. So I'm down to consider for 2 strangles. Strangles helps a lot in the mirror. Being able to answer a opponent's Symmetry Sage when they're on the play helps you kind of control the match. 3 damage deals with most creatures in the format, so it's just another removal spell. And like I said, I'm on the Otawara, just as another utility land that's come up at the odd time. And 4 Mentor's Guidance, no Expressive Iteration. So I got, with this one, I came in at like number 23 Mythic, I think, or relatively high Mythic this month, but it was really good at the beginning of the season for me. So the next deck up is Rakdos Midrange, 65% win rate. So this is kind of combining an Explorer version with some of the great cards that we have in the historic format. Notably, we have Seasoned Pyromancer, which Sheoldred gains you 4 life potentially. But a really good way to refill your hand. It's good to discard to Liliana because you can get tokens off it. Gives you blockers, gets rid of like late game if you have a bunch of discard spells, like Inquisition's another card we have in this format. You can just get rid of them and then get tokens for it. Some Croxes in here, a bunch of different removal options, including Molten Impact, which is a scalable removal spell. And then you got like Bone Crushers, Fables, Graveyard Trespassers, kind of all mixed into there. We then have Azorius Control. So there's a best of 1 version and a best of 3 version, and they're kind of seeing 2 versions of that in a sense. So there's the Lotus Field version of the deck, which is looking to use Strict Proctor, Stifle, or Discontinuity to make it so that you don't have to sacrifice the Lotus Field. So this lets you potentially ramp as early as turn 2, but usually turn 3. Turn 2 if you have a Stifle, so it gets you ahead on mana with the deck. It also shuts off a lot of the Enter the Battlefield style effects. Divine Purge, you saw a lot of artifact decks, so Divine Purge seems really well placed in the format right now. And then you just got cards like Archmage Charm, Narset, Memory Deluge. You went through to Fairies, Shark Typhoons, Wandering Emperors, or like Castle Ardenvale or Hall of the Storm Giant, or your opponent's just going to be sad and then go home. There's Azorius Control. This is a best of 3 version. So this one's no Lotus Field, just cleaner mana base, and then you have a bunch of counter spells. I think this is Missman's version, who's got number 1 Mythic with it. Some Farewell's main, Shark Typhoons, the Commit Memory Narset combo with Memory. Your opponent doesn't get to draw cards. A lot of different removal options, and then post board you got like Divine Purges, bunch of removal as needed, counter spells, Baneslayer versus like aggressive decks, another Verdict, some wedding announcements to give you early blockers, good in the like kind of control mirrors as well, just kind of coming in there. And then last one is Mono Green Elves. So 57% win rate. So this is kind of an all-in creature deck. You're looking to generate huge amounts of mana with either something like Elvish Archdruid, Circle the Dream Druids, Marwyn, anything like that, flipped Growing Rite of Civilical Mog, and then you pump all that mana into Allosaur Shepherd or to Elvish War Master, and then you get big Anthem style effects. You have card advantage in Leaf Crown Druid, the Realm Walker, and Collected Company to kind of get you ahead Elvish Clan Caller as a lord, Elvish Archdruid as a lord, Leaf Crowned as a lord as well. So kind of a lot of different lord effects in that respect. I love playing against elves on wizards because it's usually they can't block flyers other than Jaspera, and you're usually a little bit turn faster. You have burn spells, they have no removal, so your Arcanist really can go unchecked and just start picking off their deck. So that's it for the week. Like I said, there's kind of a mix. We have some best of 3 decks. There's not a huge amount of data for the best of 3 format right now. It's really artifacts and control right now that's showing up, but getting a quick one through. I haven't been posting as much lately, but it's been very busy in my personal life with work. So just trying to get these out at least for the time being, and we'll hopefully, once the Brother War comes out, be back on a regular content schedule. In any case, thanks for watching, everyone. Hope you have a great one. Stay safe out there. And if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel, dropping a like, comment. All are free and easy ways to help support the channel. Thanks for watching. Have a great one. Stay safe.